Hi there, it's Denise Eckert, and I love coming on here and sharing different ideas and techniques to help you lower the stress in your life. And today we're going to talk a little bit about victimhood. And for this, we have a wonderful woman named Michelle Bishop, and she's a master certified life coach and author of Choose You First. She helps women reclaim their lives after adversity by embracing self love. Through coaching, workshops, and speaking, she empowers clients to shed limiting beliefs, strengthen self worth, and create lives filled with joy and purpose. Welcome, Michelle.
Thank you so much. It's a pleasure to be here, Denise.
Now, I'd like to talk about victimhood. And one of the first things I'd like to do is find out what inspired you to do this type of work.
What inspired me was a lifetime of getting to a place where I just didn't even know who I was anymore. So, in that self-discovery, I'd lost my husband in a tragic accident. It really took the breath out of me. And I had lived a lot of life before then. I am a product of child abuse that incurred mentally, physically, and emotionally, and then continued in life's journeys of that type of victimhood. As a child, you don't really have those choices. So as an adult, you get to learn better, but you need to have the role models and the tools to do that. Ultimately, what I had done is I had come out of child abuse, went into my first marriage being a domestic abused wife, as well as then falling out of that into an immediate rebound relationship that just snowballed. I was very successful professionally. And if you'd looked at the facade, I'd had everything together. But once you shut those doors, then the whole mayhem of chaos happens. And I know that I'm not unique. And so ultimately, when I was in the midst of really figuring out, like, who am I? What do I want? And even though I'd been successful professionally, I had never really had a legacy to leave. I had financial security, but I did not have security within myself. And that is so much more important, to be able to know who you are and to be able to express yourself freely without being bound. And really, those were the things that made me say, look, I'm not alone in this, and I want to create the safe environment of a community that we can openly communicate it in a professional way with resources, so that we can break and crash through those molds and those opportunities to not be trapped and shackled in the mask of what we're doing out there. And it makes life so easy. So that's really what initiated me. And in that growth, I've had so much of joy and opportunity to really create, like I said, a community of others, because we get to bring that to each other hand in hand, which is just fabulous. So it brings joy to everyone.
I'm sorry for the experiences that you went through, but I am so happy that you're here helping others create a better life because, yeah, we can live behind our masks and people really don't know what's going on in our hearts. And that's very powerful. Now, with victimhood, how do you define victimhood for people that are new to this or listening to this?
I consider victimhood a state of mind. And I recognize through tragedy that there are moments that we are in victimhood, but it is so important to not stay stagnant in that victimhood, because then it doesn't allow you to push through and thrive from that experience. Because if you take that nugget of experience and pain and tragedy, sadness, remorse, hurt, all of those, as strong as emotions they may be, they are stronger in the opposite of what it can do to strengthen you and allow you to not live in the victimhood and thrive and grow and lead and have a happy life.
What are the steps you can take if you're listening here and you realize that you are living in victimhood? And as you said, like some of the emotions that you mentioned are pretty much the strongest emotion that human beings we feel. What are some of the steps that we can start taking to create a thrivier lifestyle?
As you said, some of those steps, I think the first step is truly to recognize that you are in this state of mind. And that is probably the most difficult aspect of being in victimhood because it becomes a pattern for oneself. Is like it it's not just about the event in itself, it's other events that happen subsequently. And so since your mind is already programmed into the victim mentality, it's recognizing that you are in that mentality. That's a very difficult and challenging part of victimhood. And then the next point is to say, stop. Internally, stop, breathe, pause, and then assess. I personally like to do listing, journaling, different things like that to get and release these emotions, these things that you are feeling, because they really are racket in your head. This is the story that you're telling yourself. You are your own author. You can choose to change that narrative, but you have to know what that narrative is. So, a lot of times, by not just communicating it verbally, which everyone's hearing verbally, I think all of those senses are important. But ultimately, if you can get them on some type of definitive paper, then ultimately you can put a position to rewrite your own story and say, okay, look at it objectively. This is no longer you. This is the situation. This is what I want for me. And then put your goals in. Put what you want for you. What are you striving for? Is it peace? Is it happiness? Then you have something to move towards. It's okay. I want peace. I have this. This is what I'm experiencing. So if I want peace, how do I change that narrative? What can I do? And I'm a firm believer this is not a crash diet. This is a lifestyle. This takes small steps. And in those small steps of pivoting your mindset over time, you will find that they become this large nugget of life in which you live. So that's something that I truly do. And then you incorporate more things that can help you. It might be spiritual, it might be adding a friend, it might be adding a coach, it might be adding a psychologist or a psychiatrist. We all have our different, maybe it's your general practitioner, but start making small steps and change for yourself so that you can then no longer be a victim and start seeing how you can thrive in your own life by doing that.
Yeah, that's wonderful. Now, to get started on, for someone that doesn't really journal, and to create that awareness that you are living in victimhood, because a lot of times when you live in victimhood, I find you're going through so much, you're devastated, whether you're grieving, so your emotions are just all over the place. Are there certain questions when you're journaling that you can ask yourself to get the ball rolling?
I think that's a great question, Denise, because as you said, when you're in the moment of victimhood, I consider it that you're really pretty scrambled. And so to actually have direction to say, where do I start, even in journaling? And there's plenty of resources out there. And that's one of the things that, whether or not you have internet access, whether or not you have a used bookstore, whether or not you have, there are plenty of resources that are free as well as paid that can actually just start asking simple questions. And I think when you start out small, it just is part of the foundation and base to then grow deeper in your own rewriting of your story. So again, it could be a page, it could start with 3 sentences of questions that you ask, 5 sentences that you ask every day. And in that, think that it is imperative because I am someone that believes that good in is good out, bad in is bad out. So if in fact you as an individual within the victimhood can recognize the simplicity of something positive that had occurred in that day, as small as it may seem, I woke up and I took a breath. It's something that we do every day and we take it for granted.
Yeah.
And so there are different things. I try to always notice things on in nature. Be in a place that if you're in a place of negativity, remove yourself. Even if it's for a minute, walk out the door. Walk out the apartment door or the house door and just take a moment and breathe in a different environment and then note it every day as something that you're grateful for, that was something that was positive, and you will find that more and that will grow in your life because you're watering it, you're creating it, you're taking the seed of change of choice, you're choosing you first and not wanting to live in the grief or in the sadness. And there could be some other dynamics. So maybe you hadn't been to the doctor. Maybe you haven't been taking care of yourself. Maybe it's a hormone. It- it- but take the initiative because you have to choose you first. Because without you, there is nothing. And we are all meant to be exactly the way we are. And as I say, in our imperfections, we have created our perfection.
Now you talk a little bit about silent warrior in your social media. Is this a technique or can you explain that a little bit?
Yeah, I have always suffered through anxiety, and it's become greater in points of my life. It's become less and less as things happen, but I certainly never, even though I'm a certified master life coach, anybody that says in 5 steps I can fix you and your life's going to be perfect, I say hogwash. It is a life journey. It is a single step every single day, and we all do it. We are all part of that journey. And in that, what I find is breath work is very important to me. And so, in that, and sometimes I can just do it. I do it now automatically, and I don't even realize I do it. But sometimes it could take just a few seconds, and sometimes I may have to walk away from the room and need a half an hour. But it's a method that I use to calm myself in the anxiety of whatever dynamic is going on. And I take that moment and pause And I breathe in through my nose. I take a great deep breath and I say, I'm breathing in life because that is exactly what breath is. It is life. And I hold it and I cherish it. And then I release it through my mouth very gently and say, I release all that doesn't serve me. And in this solid technique of ebb and flow, I'm breathing in life, releasing all that doesn't serve me. I'm able to purge the anxiety and the noise, I call it the noise of life, of even if I'm in a noisy space, it just centers me into this. And so it's something that I've done for many years, and I had experienced panic attacks. And when you get to the point of panic attacks, you've already crossed that threshold. So you want to try to reach it as you're recognizing I'm feeling that angst. Your body will physically tell you there it will physically tell you, oh, my chest is getting tight, or I'm having a hard time breathing, or I'm feeling overwhelmed in my mental space. So before you even get there, if you just can breathe in life and appreciate and recognize it, and then blow out all that doesn't serve you, you can center yourself and move forward. And that is what we call the silent warrior.
I love that. What I love about breathing exercises is, as you said, you can do it anywhere at any time. So if you start feeling a little frayed at the edges, just take that break. And that's what we need to realize is we need to take those breaks rather than
Absolutely.
like none of this walk it off or get over
Ah,
it. Like that's how I
seriously.
grew up. Walk it off, get over it, stop,
Yeah.
stop complaining. No.
Put on your big girl panties.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. So you're the author of Choose You First. Can you talk a little bit about your book?
Absolutely. I lived in a life that similar to what we just spoke about, which is a great segue, that you don't talk about these things. When the door closes, things happen and you live through it. And a lot of times it can be a real horror story. And I decided, as I had been a survivor of breast cancer, I was in during the pandemic, I had COVID and was in the ICU for 3 weeks. I had several opportunities for God to take me from this earth, and there was a reason why I was supposed to be here. And ultimately, in my successful career, I could not remember any aspect of any customer's name that I had sold equipment to for decades. And I was like, what have I given back to the world? What is my legacy? I didn't know who I was in the grieving of my husband. I'd had two very unsuccessful marriages prior to. I'd had 17 years. And if everybody says, oh, marriage is bliss, a great marriage has got its ebbs and flows. And we went through the ebbs and flows and had a wonderful relationship. And the tragedy of losing him, because I had only been vulnerable to him and I was able to receive love back. And so it became a calling of mine to shine the light of hope to everyone that vulnerability is a strength. Authenticity in exactly who you are is a strength. It's a gift. It is an unbelievably precious opportunity to spread across the world. And so I went and changed absolute careers, studied. You don't have to be certified to be a life coach. But to me, in all efficacy, I thought it was important that I would get all the training I could. And so the closest we have is the International Coaching Federation that will certainly migrate, and you can become certified, but taking courses that are qualified underneath their curriculum, and became a master certified life coach. And so I took the events in my life and I shined the light in the dark closet. I became raw. There's nothing, there's no stone unturned, there's no closed door. My life is free in it. And in turn, it's amazing with the tools in which I've been gifted with through my own life as well as my education that I get the opportunity to help so many others that have experienced the same thing. We're not alone. This is a community, and there's nothing to be hidden. There's no reason to hide from it. You are who you are. I live without shame. I live free in that. I live and I thrive and not victimhood, but and I just am not a survivor. People can survive. I've been a great survivor, but you have to thrive from that. You have to take it to the next level because that's how you actually grow and fly and you get an opportunity to not only give, then you receive as well. And so it's such a reciprocal type of symbiotic relationship with humanity that
Yeah,
is fabulous. And so I wanted to publish the book and let everyone know there is nothing selfish about choosing you first. It is selfless to choose you first because it allows you the strength to give that much more to all that you love. And if you don't take care of yourself, you can't take care of others. Your tank does become empty. And so, as when the plane goes down and they say, put the oxygen mask on yourself, that's the way life is too. And people, and myself included, did not do that. And you have to do that because you cannot give of yourself freely with in an empty tank.
absolutely not. Okay, Michelle, we're going to be wrapping this up. So, what are your final words of wisdom to the audience today? I don't know how you're going to top that, but challenges.
Denise, you're hilarious. I love it. No, honestly, my final advice to the audience is take action. Take action. You have nothing to lose and everything to gain. Because if you make a small pivot of change and it doesn't work out, guess what? You just go back and you redo it. No harm, no foul, but you do have that opportunity for so much more. But you have to choose you first and take action.
I love that. That's so true. So, Michelle, I'm going to be putting Michelle's information wherever you're watching or listening to this. And if you have any questions, please feel free to reach out and ask her questions. And yeah, sounds like an amazing book.
Thank you.
So thank you for your time today. And I'm just leaving you a gentle reminder to slow down and enjoy life. And I'll see you in the next episode.